Welcome to Center Ground, your home for unfiltered discussion, where we tackle today's most talked about topics, break down current events, and give our take on the internet's latest foolishness. Tune in and let's find some common ground. Let's get this party started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to switch it up just a little bit. So instead of reacting to a video or talking about an internet concept like entitlement or delusion and things like that, I wanted to have something of a serious conversation and tell y'all what happened to me this weekend. And it's a situation that might seem a bit small, but I believe it's the perfect example of how your life can change in an instant, all because of a single decision. Now, where I'm from, they call that, it could change in a New York minute. It could happen that fast. So if you would indulge me, close your eyes for a second and think about a young man, really young. Now picture this young man. He started off his life in poverty. This young man, despite how hard he tried, he continuously met up with his good old friend, failure. When failure wasn't meeting up with him, bitter adults would tell him things like he would never amount to anything. So, of course, this young man grew up thinking that life was going to consume him at a very young age. If life didn't do it, some loser with a weapon would. Now, growing up in the hood, he believed he would never make it to his 16th birthday. He always believed that someone would take his life before he got the opportunity to truly enjoy it. So, with that understanding in mind, he never really tried. Not hard anyway. Not with all of his effort. And when he made it to 16 years old, he prayed to God. He said, if I could just make it to 18, I would be eternally grateful. Talk about a low standard. As low as it was, the good Lord granted that wish. But before he got there, before he got to 18, he gave his life to Christ and began working for the big man in an attempt to make the world a better place. From 18, the age he thought he wasn't going to make it to turned to 21. But he ended up getting there as well. That's when he really started to do better in life. He started working towards being the man that he was supposed to be. When he reached 21 years of age, the same age he never thought possible. Now remember, he didn't think he was going to make it to 16. Then he didn't think he was going to make it to 18. Then he didn't think he was going to make it to 21. But when he finally made it to 21, he told himself he was going to start taking life serious. He started to move different. He changed his life. He changed his attire. He stopped hanging out with communal losers. And he also became hyper-focused on the future, his future. As he got older, he gained a love for helping people, particularly within his community. But sadly, when you embark on that journey of helping your community, you begin to learn the harsh reality. You can't save everyone. So he began to look at things differently. he learned a lot of hard lessons. Lessons like a lot of adults are nothing more than neglected children. That tough guy persona that so many young men have in the hood is nothing more than fear. Just because you love someone does not mean that they'll love you back, especially not in the way that you wish to be loved. The closest people to you can be your biggest enemies, and the ones you love may purposely stunt your growth if they realize you will eventually outgrow them. And as selfish as you want to be, your life does not only belong to you. Now, these are some harsh lessons that some people never learn. But one of the most important lessons he has ever learned was life is a series of decisions. One wrong move, and it could all be over. Now, this young man has a very similar story to many young men growing up in the hood, growing up in a single mother home, trying to figure out this thing called life from a masculine perspective. This young man has a story similar to some young women in the same circumstance. But either way, I told y'all this unnecessarily necessary story for a reason. And that's because that kid is me. If you didn't figure it out already, of course. Because I know somebody like, hey, you dumb. Of course that was you. But there's always somebody who's like, oh, now it makes sense. Right? So, but I brought up this story because I wanted to tell you what happened to me this weekend. Now, I don't think I brought it up on this channel before, but in my free time, I like to moonlight as a real estate investor. I'm not the greatest at it, right? I have my struggles, I have my triumphs, but if you know anyone willing to sell their property in the Delaware, Philadelphia area, send me an email at centerground.pod.com. I'm going to put it in the description just in case. But with that being said, I was outside of a property, a potential property with my contractor. It's in real bad shape. It looks decrepit. It was terrible. But I was outside with my contractor just talking through what I just saw and the potential plan that I was going to have for this particular project. Now, we were in the zone, right? We was just two of us. It was a quiet block. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. And we were focused on the job. We were just focused on what we were doing when out of nowhere, a beat up car pulled up. Now, I don't pay it any mind because I'm from the hood. You tend to hear a beat up car coming. And oftentimes beat up cars got somebody playing some ratchet type of music. You kind of get used to it. But I noticed that when they reached the stop sign, they didn't keep going. And the volume of the music turned down. And the guy inside the car yelled, "Y'all good?" Now I know what some people are going to say. Like, why do you got to take it to a negative? What if he wanted to make sure y'all was okay? Or if he was, maybe he was trying to sell y'all some bud or something. Who knows, right? Well, listen, I swear Black people as a collective are naturally fascinating. We have the ability to create a dialect using limited lingo and phrases. And based on the tone that we choose, it could mean a multitude of things, both good and bad. So from my perspective, it seemed like he was trying to start something. Perhaps he thought we was moving on his block. Nah, scratch that. I don't know why these clowns always start talking about they block when they don't own nothing on the block. Makes no sense. But I'm getting back to the video before I get distracted. Now back to him, right? My first instinct was to look at my contractor because my back was towards the street and I was facing my contractor. But I could tell from his face that he didn't know that guy. So I turned slightly, not my body, just pretty much my head and my shoulder a little bit. I looked at the dude and simply said, "Yeah, we good." And then I turned right back around and started talking to my contractor and telling him what I wanted him to do. A few minutes passed, and I realized the guy was still there in his car just watching us. But I didn't engage. I didn't get into an argument. I didn't ask what he wanted. I just went back doing what I was doing. And eventually, he drove off. But here's the lesson. I want you to think about what happened to me just for a second. Think of the multitude of things I could have said and done, but chose to continue doing what I was already doing. Now, that interaction to some might seem like a small interaction, but it could have gone sideways in many, many ways. These kind of situations happen every single day, especially in certain neighborhoods. Some people, for whatever reason, are looking for a reaction. I think it goes back to them being that neglected child that I brought up before. But their goal is to antagonize you because they want attention. I don't know if people pay attention, but men seek attention different from women seeking attention. Most women who seek attention tend to take off their clothes. Most men who seek attention tend to get aggressive. But who knows, right? But we all know how those stories typically end. And it usually ends with someone losing their life over something so stupid. So I handled it the way that I did in that moment because, one, I know the game. I'm not a kid anymore. I know how people move. And probably more importantly, I handled that situation the way I did because in that moment, my purpose was clear. My focus was on my business, on that real estate project. I had to make a split-second decision. Do I feed into some random guy's nonsense? Or do I stay focused on what I'm here to accomplish? Mind you, I drove some miles to get there, so I was definitely focused. Just throwing that out there. But that's the core of my message today, especially for any young man that's listening. You have to understand the power of having a level head and not being overly emotional. I know this is hard for many young men who were raised solely by their mothers, but you need to learn. I've been there, so I know it's possible. But he probably ended up thinking, man, that boy was soft. He didn't even say anything. So what? What the hell do I care what he thinks of me? He might have thought I was a little bit slow. But again, who cares? You have to be so committed to your purpose, so focused on your goals that you will not allow anyone else's chaos to throw you off track. Your purpose has to be paramount. What I do it for my family. I do it for my community. I literally don't have time for people's stupidity. And this is why I stay in the house, if you catch my drift. But in a world where it feels like a lot of people are operating without a real sense of purpose, it's kind of easy to get sucked into unnecessary drama and conflict. But don't fall for it. Your time, your energy, and your life are way too valuable to risk on someone else's stupidity. Don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing either. Remember, you are built different. Make sure you keep reminding yourself of that. Now, here's the crazy part. My contractor and I finished that conversation. We didn't move. We didn't budge. We stayed there a good maybe 10 more minutes and finished that conversation. And when I drove off, guess who I ended up seeing? You want to hear something crazy? Because that man didn't see what car I was driving, he didn't know, and he still doesn't know to this day, that I saw him when he was lacking. Now, he was standing in front of a storefront business with some other guy. Now, I want you to think for a second, because again, this is a story that we've heard way too often. Way too often. And I think some of y'all see where I'm going with this. But imagine if I wasn't in my right mind. Imagine the damage I could have done, and he wouldn't have seen it coming. Think about all the people who weren't involved in his decision-making and how they could have gotten pulled into drama they never asked for. The people in that guy he was standing right next to would have been right next to him if I decided to do something crazy. Think about the people in that storefront who might have been clueless as to what's going on, but would have been caught in the crossfire. Think about the family members who would have thought he was innocent and was attacked for no reason. What about the police officers who would have been forced to investigate a senseless crime? The reporter who would have had to been on scene at a crime scene, all because of one choice. Now, I said this before, and I added it to the ending of my videos for a reason, because people need reminders at times. At the end of the day, greatness lives within you. You have to make sure that you're doing all you can to unlock it. This small encounter could have went sideways so quickly on his end, on my end, all because of a few short decisions. So the next time you find yourself in any situation, it doesn't have to be a violent situation. It doesn't have to be a hectic situation. Any situation when you find yourself, take a moment before you say or do anything, before you react. Take that extra second, breathe, and think to yourself, will your actions take you off of your purpose? If the answer is yes, do not engage. But this video is getting kind of long, so I'll close it. This small encounter, it's ironic how life seems to just be connected. This small encounter ties directly into the next series of videos that I wanted to work on. I want to do a deep dive into stupidity and ignorance. Isn't that something? And I wanted to talk about why it seems like people as a collective are getting dumber. So within that series of videos, I'll probably try to break down the different levels of stupidity, from at least my perspective, from simple mistakes to like willful ignorance, why they happen. We'll see. I think y'all might enjoy it. But stay tuned. But until then, as always, you got to keep your head on a swivel. As in boxing, they say, protect yourself at all times. Make sure you're staying focused on your purpose, on your family, on your future. And don't let anyone distract you from your path. Until we meet again.
Thanks for listening to the Center Ground Podcast. We'll be back soon with some more great content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. We are a new channel, and growth is essentially our main objective. So send us an email at centerground.pod@gmail.com with any ideas or clips you would like for us to review. This was definitely fun, and I'd say let's do it again. But before you go, always remember, greatness lives somewhere within you. Just make sure you're taking the time to find the key to unlock that greatness. Until we meet again, I'll see you soon.